There are moments in life that seem ordinary, just another family BBQ, the smell of grilled meat drifting in the summer air, laughter, blending with the hum of an old radio. But sometimes, right in the heart of this calm fate, quietly cracks the surface and everything shatters. It happened when my grandmother, with eyes full of what I thought was love, suddenly said, "Your car loan is paid off. 12 grand is no small amount, but you deserve it." The room went silent. My heart pounded. I didn't own a car. I looked around. My mother avoided my gaze, slicing into a watermelon as if it held the answers. My father stared down at his plate, pretending nothing was wrong. Then my sister appeared, holding up a shiny set of keys, smiling like she hadn't heard a thing. And everyone else silence, like they were waiting for me to accept a story I was never meant to be part of. That was the moment I realized family wasn't refuge anymore. I became a resource, a bank, with no interest and name signed on papers I never agreed to. And the worst part, I stayed silent for too long. What followed wasn't just a fight for justice. It was a journey to uncover the darkest secrets hiding in plain sight, betrayal, silence, and finally, an explosion not of anger, but of undeniable truth. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Now sit back and prepare, for this story isn't just mine. It's a wake-up call for anyone who's ever felt broken beneath the weight of family. You never really notice the cracks in your family until the light hits them just right. That night was meant to be like every summer BBQ, growing up music, playing low my cousin Andrew, burning the hot dogs Aunt Marie fussing over everyone's plates, the laughter of neighborhood kids echoing from across the fence. But beneath the jokes and second helpings of potato salad, there was always a hush, a kind of calculated politeness, like everyone remembered the rules, but no one remembered why they were there. I used to tell myself the tension was just life. Everyone has their secrets. But as the sun dragged golden streaks across the backyard, I felt the familiar weight settle in my chest. My little niece Olivia chased fireflies, unaware of how tightly her mother, my sister, gripped her phone fingers, dancing across the screen. Uncle Ray and Dad discussed lawn mowers, voices tight, never quite making eye contact. Grandma sat in her lawn chair like a silent judge, her purse always overstuffed, always locked, resting on her lap. No one spoke. Not Dad, who scrubbed his fingers along his jaw, not Mom, who seemed absolutely riveted by the watery stripes in the melon. Not Uncle Ray, whose "you want another beer" sounded like an offer to disappear. A wave of shame, confusion, and a peculiar dread crashed over me. It was as if my existence had split in two, the me who always tried to help and the me who nobody really saw. For years, I'd patched family holes, paid for subscriptions, fronted fees, ignored small slights, told myself it's just temporary, they're family. Now every memory felt transactional. Remembering moments now, I see them with new eyes, the birthdays uninvited, the mysterious bills showing up in my inbox, the streaming services activated, then forgotten. I think of Andrew once asking, "Don't you ever get tired of being so generous?" And Grandma answering for me, "He's always been that way," as if I were stuck that way. The family default, the one built to endure. What hurt wasn't just the betrayal of a car loan I'd never signed for. It was the slow, silent realization that the people I loved most had quietly tallied my worth in dollars and signatures, then decided my silence was worth more than my voice. That night, family felt less like a safety net and more like a machine, one that grinds up the quiet and the careful. Every glance, every forced joke, every sidelong look from Aunt Marie, all of it landed sharp cutting through any story I'd told myself about why the help was never really help, why thank you never came unprompted, why the burdens always rolled downhill landing squarely at my feet. I sat there wishing it all away, wishing I could be invisible. But deep down, something inside me flickered awake for the first time in years, a tiny ember of self-respect refusing to be snuffed out. As the laughter slowly, awkwardly resumed, Andrew cracking a joke that no one quite laughed at, the seeds of reckoning were planted. The quiet was over. My silence, the thing they'd always counted on, had become a weapon of its own. And as the night bled into heavy, unsaid things, I realized this story, whatever it became, would not end the way they expected. And so the shadows stretched longer, setting the stage for what was to come. I waited until the house went quiet, just the sound of Andrew's laughter floating up from the basement, Olivia asleep on the living room couch, Aunt Marie humming to herself in the kitchen. I sat alone at the dining table beneath that tired yellow light and finally did what I'd been too afraid to do for years. I started looking. At first, it was just curiosity. I opened my banking app, scrolled through the transactions. There, a loan account I never remembered starting. Approved in my name, $12,000 signed with a signature that looked like mine but wasn't. My hands didn't shake. They felt numb like someone else's. The more I searched, the deeper the rot went. In Grandma's yellow folder, I found more photocopied contracts, my name spelled out in block letters, insurance forms, utility bills, things I never touched, never even heard about. I traced the familiar loops of my own handwriting, suddenly crooked, mismatched, cut, and pasted. How many times had they done this? How long had I been funding their comforts without even a phone call? Flashbacks pressed in sharper than any nightmare. The birthday I wasn't invited to, but there was my signature paying the catering. The electricity bill that spiked twice, Mom said it was a system glitch, the sort of white lie you swallow because you want to believe her. The Netflix account still charging after I canceled the little thank you from my niece for a present I never knew I bought. I couldn't tell what stung more, knowing they did it or knowing I had let them. Every favor was a manipulation, every dollar, another brick in a prison I'd built with my own silence. I thought of Olivia, barely 10, and already learning that sometimes adults take and twist without asking. I thought of Andrew, always the clown, vanishing when things got tense. I wondered how much he suspected if he joked to cover guilt. That folder felt heavier than stone, full of secrets, and every time I'd said it's fine instead of fighting. The betrayal was systematic, planned like a blueprint passed between relatives, each one silently agreeing I could pay because I don't mind. I wanted to scream, to storm into the living room and demand an explanation, but I didn't. I sat in the gloom, feeling the sting of 1,000 tiny cuts. This wasn't a mistake. It was a method. And that night, for the first time, anger found a home within me, not just as a flash, but as a slow burning certainty. I realized I wasn't just betrayed, I had been harvested my trust. My resources, my silence, all parceled out without my consent. That's when something in me broke open the part that always absorbed every blow, patched every crack. I decided to look further, to open every account check, every bill untangle, every knot they'd tied behind my back. I wrote down dates, found the patterns, made copies of every document. I saw myself not as a victim, but as a witness, a collector of proof. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about reclaiming the story of my own life. As I watched the sun slip through the kitchen window, painting sharp lines on the countertop, I knew the reckoning had just begun. There comes a night, a thin, stifling moment, when the world you let happen to you suddenly feels too small, too cruel, too strange to belong in. Mine came sometime between midnight and the blue haze of dawn, alone, at my kitchen table, an army of forged signatures and memories strewn like confetti before me. Betrayal dried me out until even my anger felt hollow. But for once, that emptiness was freeing, like a fire burning through everything I'd ever used to make excuses for them and for myself. Silence had always been my shield. The way I tried to keep peace, told myself maybe it's just what families do. But now the shield felt more like a muzzle. All night I replayed faces, Grandma's matriarch, quiet Mom's averted eyes, my sister's hand knotted tight in Olivia's Uncle Ray's jokes falling flat. There was nothing left to explain, nothing to forgive. I imagine in some other version of myself, I'd have swallowed it all, another bitter pill, another secret. But not this time. With new shaking determination, I got to work. First, my phone, the same one my sister had used to send emergencies and requests for transfers I never got back. I reset every password, revoked every shared account, closed out each barren family plan. Netflix gone, Spotify downgraded, Prime and streaming dead. Each click wasn't just a goodbye to convenience. It was a severing of the invisible strings they tied from my life into theirs. The bank accounts I froze, the auto payments linked to Aunt Marie's beauty subscriptions, the utilities for Uncle Ray's old rental, even Dad's side business web domain, remembering every time he'd sworn just a temporary loan. Every portal, every recurring charge, every loophole I'd left for their comfort, I closed it all. My hands trembled, but it was the trembling of someone finally waking up after years of fitful sleep. There was fear, real chest-tightening fear that night, as I typed out an email to the dealership attaching the documents apologizing for what my own family had done using my name. Would they call the police ruin? Lives, would Mom ever forgive me? If things got ugly, but then somewhere beneath the anxiety, pride started to rise. I was protecting the kid I'd once been, the young man who paid, patched, and never asked for anything, not even honesty in return. The world seemed to shrink to just me and a low hum of questions. What will happen now? Who will be angry first? But each heartbeat, each click of a locked account was louder than before, an anthem of autonomy, a reclaiming. Even as my phone began to buzz, late-night texts from Andrew, half-coherent apologies, my niece Olivia asking, "Why did you turn off my cartoons?" I felt steel settle in my spine. I was breaking the cycle, not just for myself, but so that Olivia one day wouldn't learn the wrong lesson about what families can take. The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was purposeful, a silence not of surrender, but of boundaries drawn. In that quiet, I heard a new voice, a part of me that was ready finally to speak for itself. The real battle I knew hadn't even started yet. Soon they would notice. Soon would come the calls, the accusations, the storm of guilt and anger. And how could you? I was bracing for it. But this time, I was meeting the world on my own terms. There are storms, and then there's the silence before, when you know every message lighting up your phone is a warning, a threat, a plea. I always thought if a day like this came, I'd feel terror or at least regret. But when my world finally jolted awake, what I felt most of all was clarity, a cold, precise calm. It started small, a missed call from my father at dawn, a barrage of texts from my sister, her words shifting from question marks to accusations in real time. Aunt Marie added her voice. Her, are you okay, carrying a cold edge thinly disguised as concern. Even Uncle Ray, the family's peacemaker now lobbed in his humor, sharpened to a knife. You've made your point, kid. Let's not drag everyone down with you. And that's when I realized the roles were shifting. I wasn't just the quiet one anymore. In their eyes, I'd become dangerous, someone who could upend the pattern, burn the script they'd rehearsed for years. Now their comfort was at stake. The confrontation played out across screens' voicemails, even at my door. My mother's voice wavered on the line, pleading, bargaining, then breaking. How could you do this to your own family? The guilt, the shame, all weaponized to get me back into my usual silence. But every word only fanned that stubborn fire inside me. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was seeking truth. Then came the counterattack, my counterattack. Calmly, methodically, I collected my proof, digital receipts, email threads, forged signatures, timelines, and incident reports. I compiled everything into a single, unrebuttable record and sent it first to our family's accountant, then to a fraud specialist I'd met helping a friend, finally to my attorney. I sat at my laptop long past midnight, drafting a post on LinkedIn, no names, just facts, just a warning to anyone who might fall for the myth that family can do no harm. The post took on a life of its own within hours. It was read by thousands. Comments trickled in, some from old classmates, others from perfect strangers. This happened to me too. Thank you for saying what I never. Could you're not alone. The world, it turned out, was full of people who had also been asked to bear the unbearable for the sake of family. The storm at home grew louder. My parents showed up, sunglasses, hiding their eyes with hastily packed folders and a box of receipts, a piece offering a last chance at control. For the first time, I stood firm. No more, I said. Not because I want to hurt you, but because I won't let this hurt me anymore. Their anger fractured. My mother sobbed, my father's jaw set like concrete. My sister's apologies too rehearsed to believe. For every plea, think of what you're doing to us. You're tearing this family apart. I held up the simple weight of truth. My silence was over, and with it their hold. That night, as the world outside went dark, I watched the notifications roll. in not out of vanity, but out of awe. My story, painful and real, was no longer just mine. And as the door closed on those who'd once held the power, I realized the real journey was just beginning. Healing does not come as lightning, but in aftershocks. The days blurred together, punctuated by messages from strangers. You're so brave. I wish I had the courage. The post had reached more people than I could have imagined. Even my cousin Andrew, usually the family clown, messaged late one night, "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." Aunt Marie tagged a cryptic Bible quote about forgiveness. My niece Olivia mailed me a letter, her 12-year-old scrawl spelling out, "I miss you. Come back soon." Would I ever go back? That question haunted me. I mourned the lost birthdays, Christmases, the easy laughter of shared jokes, the comfort of being someone's son, someone's brother. But I mourned even more for who I'd been, the person who lived for scraps of gratitude, who believed loyalty was measured in sacrifice. Boundaries became my lifeline. I said no and meant it for the first time in my life. When my mother called again, voice brittle with hope, and asked, "Can we start over?" I told her gently that we would need to live on opposite sides of a wall, now one built from necessity, not hatred. My sister's apologies came and went, each less convincing, each met with silence. Uncle Ray tried a different angle. "Don't you want your family back?" I whispered. "I want it. But not like this. Not when love is weighed against what it costs me." Was I lonely? Excruciatingly. But each day I chose myself was one more day. I stitched up old wounds, reclaimed lost ground. I started therapy, not just to process the betrayal, but to relearn what honesty feels like inward and outward. New friendships built not on debts, but on openness began to sprout in forgotten corners of my life. Life changed in small, stubborn ways. My finances were my own. My phone was blissfully quiet. No more excuses, no more shame after every family call. It was a raw, uncertain freedom, and it was mine. Sometimes I caught myself staring at the family photo on my desk, faces I once worshipped now shadowed with regret and longing. I wondered what might have been different if only I'd spoken sooner, or if they'd loved me enough to stop before I broke. But I told myself gently that healing was not about erasing scars, but about walking forward with them as proof of survival. And as I watched the seasons change outside my window for the first time, I felt hope rise up quiet and strong. Reflection and call to action, inspiring others to break free. Because this isn't just my story, it might be yours too. Stay with me. There's a silence that fills a home after the flood, different from the stifling hush of secrets. It's the quiet left when the weight finally falls away, when you look at yourself in the mirror and realize you survived. But survival and what comes after is its own uncertain journey. Even now, as I sit at my desk, messages still pour in. Strangers, friends, even distant relatives I'd lost to time share fragments of their own pain. Your story is mine. I thought I was alone. The words blur on my screen, not just support, but a chorus of voices breaking open the old toxic code that silence is loyalty, that endurance is love. Sometimes I ask myself, was all the pain worth it? The lost birthdays, the severed ties, the echo in my apartment, where laughter used to be the answer, is never simple. I miss the easy belonging, yes. But I crave even more deeply the peace that comes from honesty with myself and with anyone brave enough to listen. Every scar I carry is a chapter of resistance, the steady, stubborn refusal to be defined by silence, by the debts I never owed, by the hands that claimed me, but never truly held me. I think about Olivia, my niece, her letter still tucked in my drawer. Someday, I hope she learns that boundaries are not betrayal, that family is more than shared blood. It's shared responsibility, mutual respect. Maybe if this story reaches her, she'll never have to trade her voice for approval. If you're watching feeling that tightness in your chest, wondering if it's finally time to choose yourself, let me say this clearly: you are not alone. Your pain is not invisible. The courage you need is already inside you, waiting for its rightful place in the light. There are resources, communities, and voices ready to anchor you. Hotline numbers, support groups, therapists who understand the hidden cost of family first. The world may still shame those who walk away, but every step you take toward your own peace is a gift to those who follow after. In the end, breaking free isn't the end of love, it's its truest form. Love for yourself, love for the future, love that never asks you to choose between dignity and belonging. This isn't just my liberation, it's all of ours. Because when we speak, when we say enough, the script no longer owns us. Breathe deep. Stand tall. The cage is open now. Step through. As I reach this final moment of my story, I want to be honest with you. Vulnerability is never easy, especially when the world expects you to stay quiet. Sharing this journey, I felt everything from anger and sorrow to uncertain hope and quiet relief. There were nights I questioned myself, wondering if peace was ever meant for someone like me. But now, standing here, I feel lighter. In the space left by old hurt, I'm learning to breathe again and slowly trust again. If my story stirred something inside you, please know that you were never just a bystander. Every person who watched, who listened, who opened their heart to a stranger's pain, you helped lift that weight. Your presence means more than you realize. Thank you deeply for spending your precious time here with me. If you found meaning in this story, I'd be grateful if you'd like, share, and subscribe to this channel.